Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 6 of the 25 Giro d'Italia. Today's stage, when we look at the profile at just over 225 kilometers, I'll call this about 140, 145 miles in length, but tack on another 10 for the long neutral section too. So this is going to be a big day for the professional Peloton here at the Giro d'Italia. Now, lots to discuss, so let's get into it proper. As we see kilometer 0, we start seeing some tacks there, of course, from Josh Tarling, from Ineos going up the road. And then when we see him get wrapped up, we see another group of 7 riders that are going to blend together once we see Lorenzo Fortunato up there and Germani bridging up the gap, the last guy that put 7 guys in the front. Well, with these 7 guys, we got Ben Turner up here from Team Ineos. Then we start looking at 5 riders chasing. It's 2 Ineos riders back there. That's Lucas Hamilton, and then that's Josh Tarling. These 2 guys are knuckleheads. In fact, the whole team Ineos are knuckleheads, and this is the beginning of the race right now. You got 5 guys with 2 Ineos guys chasing a group of 7. That's in a perfect scenario up there with Ben Turner up there, who's got some speed, with 6 companions to work hard on today's stage. Now you got to remember, this should be a sprinter stage because with only 2 categorized climbs and then the last 60 kilometers or so flat, all the way into the finish of today's stage. It looks like a sprinter stage, but at this moment, when you see Team Ineos, they're trying to break all the rules right now. The only problem is, and why they're knuckleheads, is because when you look at this group of 5 chasing with Lucas Hamilton and, of course, with Josh Tarling, these guys, they got 2 important guys sitting on. That's Vasek sitting on for Lidl Trek. They have the race leader's pink jersey. So I don't know if Vasek's going to want to work with this group of 5 just to catch a group of 7 and then be in a group of 12 and not be able to control 11 riders, especially when they have Mads Pedersen, that's a sprinter and wearing the pink jersey. So Vasek's sitting on, rightly so, and the next rider sitting on is Jan Tratnik. Jan Tratnik doesn't have any reason to work because he's got Primoz Roglic. So why would he wreck his legs up there pulling with these guys just to get attacked by 10 different riders left and right at the finish of today's stage, and you can't control it? Could he win the stage? Possibly he could win the stage. There's no doubt about that. But then who's going to be chasing in the back? There's ifs, ands, and buts all over the place. But there's definitely no buts. That Team Ineos are knucklehead right now. We go up front to the group of 7, and we see there Germani from FDJ having a discussion with Ben Turner because he's calling him a knucklehead right now. I guarantee it. They're arguing back there because Ben Turner doesn't want to work on the front because he's got 2 riders coming, but they're only holding like a 40-second gap and a 10-second, 15-second gap on the group of 5 with a 20-second gap on the Peloton. That's going 8 back there with Visma Lisa bike pulling like crazy because the big guy, Wout van Aert, is up there on the front of the train, and he was already doing some attack and trying to get across. But once Visma Lisa bike's Wout van Aert didn't make it, that's why they're pulling full gas because they got a sprinter too, Olaf Koy, and they want this to be a sprint stage. So they're going to pull it all back together. So 2 groups in front are kind of coming together. So is the Peloton. So everything's neutralized right here. And Ineos were one of the biggest knuckleheads at the beginning of today's race because they had Ben Turner in a group of 7. That would have been ideal to see if they can go to the distance here today in Naples, because remember, Naples is always chaos, and it's going to start getting a little bit raining, which we don't know at this moment, but you can be sure the teams know it because they looked at the forecast. I didn't, but they did. Now, as we come into the valley right before the first category climb starts, this climb's not going to be super important in terms of the Giro d'Italia stage, but in terms of the guys attacking before the climbs, we're going to see Enzo Polini attack up the road, and then he's got Taco van der Hoorn from Intermarché. So 1 FDJ rider, 1 Intermarché rider going up the road. And then when the Peloton hits this climb proper and starts going up, Lucas Hamilton throws in attack for Team Ineos because they missed the break, right? They already had some knuckleheads back there. Lucas Hamilton was one of them. Director Sportive's the biggest because he let it all happen. But right now, Lucas Hamilton's attacking going up the road. We see Lorenzo Fortunato from Team Astana wearing the KOM jersey. He bridges up right away up there to Lucas Hamilton, and then he gets a gap shortly thereafter on Lucas Hamilton, and then he waits up for Lucas Hamilton. Next thing you know, you see these 2 having some kind of discussion right here, and then Lorenzo Fortunato's like, I'll see you later, you're a knucklehead, I'm going up the road. So Lorenzo Fortunato drops Lucas Hamilton, or Lucas Hamilton dropped himself. I don't even think Lorenzo really attacked, but Lorenzo's now going solo. Lucas Hamilton's going back to the Peloton. Now we're going to see Lorenzo Fortunato bridge up to the 2 riders in front with about 5-6 kilometers to go on this first climb here on stage 6 of the Giro. And as he gets up there, we got 3 guys in the front. They're going to work well together all the way up to the top. Lorenzo Fortunato is going to grab maximum KOM points and go over the top with about a 3-minute gap, I'll call it. Then they drop down the descent, and it starts raining. as it starts raining, this is when Lorenzo Fortunato, KOM jersey, he's going to sit up and drop back and leave the two riders out front of Enzo and Taco Vanderhorn. These two riders now are going solo, and of course, the Lorenzo Fortunato is going to get wrapped up there for wearing the KOM jersey from the Peloton. As the Peloton's not worried about the two breakaway riders up front, we'll see that Alpecin de Koenigs, Jimmy Johnson's on the front, and Steven Kruijswijk from Visma Lease bike. Those two guys are working the front right now and keeping the gap at a manageable distance. And we go into about 100 kilometers to go as they're coming down a descent. We'll see Lucas Hamilton from Ineos, the rider I called Knuckleheads multiple times. He crashes in this left corner, and as he goes down with the Jayco rider, they'll both get up, exchange bikes eventually, and they'll get back to the back of the Peloton. Now we're going to go up to about 72 kilometers to go, and we come into this right turn, and we see Taco, and we see Enzo fly through this right turn. Then we see the Peloton coming down through this town here of the fast descent, and we see Visma Lease bike at the front who've been pulling throughout this stage 6. Now, right next to them is Bora Hansgrohe, and we see Primoz Roglic in the picture. Behind him is Jai Hindley. As Primoz Roglic moves a little bit over to the right, Jai Hindley's going to lose the front wheel, and as he's hitting the ground, then the picture's going to go to the back of the Peloton, and guys, everybody's crashing. Arkea Samsic rider back here, you see his back wheel as he starts to lock up the brake. It locks up, starts sliding sideways. He's got to let go of the brake, which means he's not slowing down right now. As he's not slowing down, it locks up to the right again. He's got to let off the brakes. Now he's coming into the back of the Peloton where they're all crashing back there, and their Arkea Samsic rider is going to crash as he goes off to the left side onto the sidewalk. Now, the cameras start finding bodies all over the place. People have gone down left and right, and I'm certainly going to miss a lot of riders, but we'll know for sure that the pink jersey of Mads Pedersen went down at some point in time as we see him back on his bike trying to go through the body carnage up here, here at stage 6 of the Giro. As the cameras come up to Bora Hansgrohe, we're going to see Jai Hindley has gone down. We see Richard Carapaz got caught up in the crash from EF Education with all of his teammates waiting for him. And then we see Jan Tratnik and Danny Martinez from Bora Hansgrohe. Those are 3 super domestiques for Primoz Roglic. That's the GC favorite here to win the Giro d'Italia when it's all said and done. As we start seeing that Jai Hindley is stuck on the side of the road here, this is going to be a bad day for Bora Hansgrohe because Jai Hindley will get up. He's going to live for sure. He's going to be okay, but he's not going to finish the Giro d'Italia as we see him get wrapped up in the ambulance. Now, we'll see at the back of the Peloton as the group are starting to merge back together, we see Danny Martinez and Jan Tratnik riding their bike again, getting up to the back of the Peloton, and then we see everything come to a stop as everything's being neutralized here with Taco Vanderhorn and Enzo Paulinho coming to a stop and the Peloton coming to the back of them. If I back the film up a little bit, it was Visma Lease bike and Bora Hansgrohe that had hands up all over the place that started this neutralization as a stage as we had bodies back there all over the ground here at the Giro. Now, as everything's come to a stop, we see the organizers discussing everything with the riders. Primoz Roglic is getting talked to quite a bit. And then when everything's worked out and finally ready to go again, we're going to see the officials there give the green light to Taco Vanderhorn and Enzo Paulinho to start going up the road. We're talking about 60 kilometers to go. They're going to be given about that 50 seconds back. We're going to see it's post-picnic back there that start riding on the front of the Peloton. Now, they neutralized everything. So they're not racing for general classification. They're not going to be racing for points, for sprint points competition. And so anybody that wants to race for the stage can race for the stage. The GC guys can drop off the back whenever they like. But the Peloton's going fast because Taco Vanderhorn and Enzo Paulinho right now are putting on a show at the front. As those two guys are riding up the front, we see how dangerous it is coming through these right turns on these narrow technical sections for the two riders in front. When you see the Peloton coming through these right turns, you look at the back of the Peloton, you know these guys are putting in some massive work. Now, the two riders up front are still holding about 50 seconds, and then it starts dropping down as we get further and further into the course here, but it's not dropping down fast. With 30 kilometers to go, I'll call it about 25 actually, is about the time when Mads Pedersen calls it a day here at the Giro d'Italia. He's going to back off with all of the GC favorites, and we start going back up to the front of the Peloton, and we see it's Visma Lease bike that are driving it like crazy. Alpecin de Koenigs, of course, have been doing some work on the front throughout this stage. Picnic's been riding the front, and AG2R have been riding the front, but they can't catch the two riders that are up the road called Taco Vanderhorn and Enzo. As those two guys are throwing down, we're on the wide road here with 20 kilometers to go. This is the highway as we're coming into the main center, but right now at this moment, these two guys at front are doing 65 kilometers an hour, so the Peloton can only go so fast back there. That's why they're having a hard time of bringing this gap back down to the two riders. As we start seeing Bardiani get on the front. As he gets on the front, we're talking about 19 seconds to the front riders up there. Then all of a sudden, the gap starts going up as the Bardiani rider disappears. It's time for Picnic and Vismalisa bike to stay on the front and start doing some more damage because the time is going back up to the two riders. They're putting on a show right now. We're coming into about 8 kilometers, 8.5 kilometers ago as they're going to exit the highway. Look at the Peloton being led by Cofidis, and then look at the sign. It says to the center of town. Direction center of town. You do not want to go to the direction center of town if you're the Peloton right now. And the roads are wet and slippery here, finishing in Naples. As the Peloton's dropping off the ramp here of the freeway, we look up front of the two riders. They're going through all of the roundabouts and carnage that you know the Peloton's going to have to make it through at this point in time. And the gap is up to about 28, 29 seconds. As we look back, Cofidis is driving it on the front. Then eventually they're going to have to start getting some more help as we're coming into 5 kilometers to go. We see it's Bart Lamont on the front. He's got Cofidis wrapped up just behind him, giving him some help as they've got the sprinter Milan Friton that's in this group. And the group's getting smaller in numbers. I'll call it about 70 riders right now, maybe less. As the group is smaller and smaller, we see up front that Bart Lamont's driving it like crazy, but he's got some help from Stefan Aldani up there until finally we start seeing that it's Quentin Hermans that's pulling for Alpecin de Koenig. Alpecin de Koenig have multiple names up here as we see Vanden Boss is there, Timo Kilic is there, Ed Plankett's there, Plowright's there, Caden Groves is there, and then we see Milan Frenton from Cofidis that's on Caden's wheel. As we look back to start seeing where Wout van Aert and Olaf Koy are, well, they're still close enough to the front of the Peloton, and they still have one Affini that's in this front group. As we go up front to the two riders that are driving it like crazy and just throwing down with every bit of effort they got, as we start seeing their power meters getting up to just about 400 watts there when we look at Taco Vanderhorn throwing in the power at the pedals right now. Enzo Polini, same thing from FDJ. They're putting on a magnificent show as the roads are starting to somewhat dry up at this moment, which is not going to help the two riders at front as the gap is starting to drop little by little right now from the pace of Alpecin de Koenig back there. Now we come into 3 kilometers to go. We see the protesters. They're running out on the road. You see this knucklehead in this mustard-colored jacket as he's running out the road, and he's got some kind of rope behind him. Luckily for him, the rope drops, but they're holding the tape, and we see Taco Vanderhorn locking up the brakes from Intermarché as the tape's coming right at about his neck height. Luckily, the tape breaks, but at this moment, with the Peloton hot on their heels, you know this is going to cause a problem for the two riders at front, and it's a chaos knucklehead move here. As finally we start seeing the fans running out as Taco Vanderhorn gets through the tape, and Enzo Polini there starts throwing an acceleration from FDJ. He's got a little bit of gap on Taco Vanderhorn that have now messed up their whole flow from this knucklehead protester, complete idiot at this moment. Look at the two cops that are sitting there on the left side of the road looking back, watching it all happen. Right now, run down there and start arresting people at this moment as the protesters are getting wrapped up from the fans back there. The Peloton made it through, luckily, with no casualties at this moment. Now, we start looking at Alpecin de Koenig driving it on the front, and we see Vandenbrush start to blow. Vandenbrush blows. It's time for Timo Kilic to go to work, and we start looking behind Timo Kilic. Edward Planker's there, Caden Groves there, and we see Plowright. Wout van Aert, Olaf Koy, they're sprinters trying to win here for Visma bike. With Timo Kilic on the front, he's going to start wrapping up Taco Vanderhorn and Enzo from FDJ. As he wraps them up, we see the Alpecin de Koenig train just come flying by. Now we're coming into the technical right turns and left turns that's going to bring us onto the cobblestone streets here of the Giro d'Italia. As we see Alpecin de Koenig get a little help there from AG2R right in the front. They got Sam Bennett in here that's trying to win a stage 2. So AG2R is on the front, and we see Alpecin de Koenig just behind them as we start coming through this super fast right-hand turn. Alpecin de Koenig open up a little bit of a gap there to the AG2R rider, and now we start seeing Plowright trying to close the gap. as he wraps up at 1.4 kilometer to go. The AG2 rider, all of a sudden we're coming into 1.3, and Ed Planker backs off the gas as we come through the right turn there to Plowright. Plowright's got a bit of a gap, and Wout van Aert and Olaf Koy are sitting in about 14th, 15th position back there on the right side of the peloton. As Plowright's getting a little bit of gap, guys, we're coming under 1 kilometer to go, and Ed Planker is still opening up a gap. As Planker's backing off the throttle, Olaf Koy being led by Wout van Aert's flying up the right side of the peloton. As they come up to the Albacete de Koenig train on the right side, we see Olaf Koy pause right there by Caden Groves, side by side. Caden's on the left, Koy's on the right, but Wout van Aert's going solo up the road. He's got a gap because Koy opened up the gap there with about 850 meters to go. Wout van Aert's trying to close up to Plowright, and he's got a gap on the peloton behind. What's going to happen at this moment? I'm thinking, wow, Wout van Aert's going to win a stage here at the Giro. He's got a gap, but wait a minute. There's some more teams back there. Only teams of 2 riders. As we see, it's Pulte coming to the front. That's Mikko Maestri that's coming to the front. Just behind him is Moschetti that paused at the front of the peloton. He didn't want to do any pulling, so he pulled into second position, and it's Pulte sitting third there. That's Giovanni Lonardi that's got his teammate on the front right now. Mikko Maestri throwing everything in the pedals he possibly can. As we look behind the Pulte rider, we see Caden Groves is there, Milan Frenton's there, Olaf Koy is there. Guys, this is a sprinter deluxe right here at stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia. But if Mikko Maestri can pull back Wout van Aert, Wout's throwing everything into. He's looking over his shoulder, but at 500 meters, he's caught Plowright there from Albacete de Koenig as Plowright's looking over his shoulder. Wout van Aert's throwing every last bit of energy he's got in it here at the finish of stage 6 of the Giro as he's trying to hold off Mikko Maestri there from Pulte. As the Pulte rider's throwing in everything, we see him wrap up Plowright. Now he's got to go get Wout van Aert as he's coming up to the back wheel of Wout van Aert at about 400 meters to go. He's not quite there. There's still a 1-2 second gap, so Wout van Aert's still throwing down. Comes into 225 meters to go, and this is where Mikko Maestri is finally wrapped up Wout van Aert, but we're coming into the left bend. As we come into the left bend, we're going to see Moschetti sitting in second position as Mikko Maestri starts to blow from catching Wout van Aert. Moschetti throws an attack from Q36.5. Guys, it's a vicious attack to the left side. It doesn't have a huge explosion, but he's going hard to the left, and he's got Olaf Koy sitting second on his wheel as Olaf Koy is trying to pass up the left side. We back the film up just a hair. Caden Groves was sitting in about 4th, 5th position, but in front of Olaf Koy, and he jumped to the right. As he jumped to the right, he's coming up to the back wheel there of Wout van Aert as the other 2 sprinters are going to the fencing. Now the camera's going to start focusing there on Moschetti from Q36.5 and Olaf Koy is trying to pass up the left side against the fencing there of Moschetti. As Moschetti starts to keep drifting still to the left, we're going to see some bumping going on right now as we see the shoulders, the hips, the thighs, and everything coming together from Olaf Koy and Moschetti. This is going to hold up Olaf Koy. As we're coming into 100 meters to go, we see a blur of Caden Groves go flying by these 2 riders in the center of the road as Caden Groves from Albacete de Koenig's throwing turbo button right now on his bike. He's got a blaze of glory going to the line as he's got a gap on everyone behind. As we see 75 meters to go with his gap at the front, we start looking over to the left again. Olaf Koy's pulled the plug here on stage 6 of the Giro and realizes he's got no shot at winning. So the Visma Lease bike rider sits up. Moschetti's still trying to throw some effort as everything's going wide just behind Caden Groves. But Caden Groves is throwing everything in the pedals as he's coming into 25 meters to go with a solid gap here. We look just behind him. They're going 4 or 5 wide back there. It's Paul Magnier and Milan Frenton from Cofidis. Paul Magnier, if I back it up just a hair, you'll see it about 75 meters ago. He was blocked in. He went all the way around the right side with about 50 meters to go. Now we're coming into 25. They're 4 or 5 wide back there, but Caden Groves is tossing his bike, even though we know for sure he's won today's stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia. He tosses it just to make sure at the line and throws his bike, crosses the line victorious. And then we start looking. Milan Frenton is going to throw his bike at the line along with Paul Magnier from Pseudo Quickstep. That'll throw their line, but it'll be Milan Frenton second and Paul Magnier to round out the podium here on stage 6 of the Giro d'Italia. Now, I want to point one thing out about Paul Magnier. He went down in that crash at about 71 kilometers to go and still managed to get a podium place here. Milan Frenton, tip of the hat here for getting second. And Caden Groves. Caden Groves crosses the line, and of course afterwards he's going to have hugs from his team. Go up into the interview, we're going to see Caden Groves talk about that this was a hard season here in 2025 so far, so he's happy to take his first victory here at the Giro d'Italia on stage 6. Congratulations, Caden Groves. It was a spectacular, explosive acceleration at 200 meters to go, going up the right side, around there where Wout van Aert was just pulling off to the right. He had the sling just a hair as he came around everyone from the right and just came by a blur, as we see Moschetti that ended up finishing 8th or 9th on the stage, but got relegated at the end and yellow carded for taking Olaf Koy to the fence. Am I okay with that? Well, I'm kind of okay with it because it looks like, of course, the road bends a little bit to the left, but Moschetti had to know that Olaf Koy was coming up the left side there, so I'm okay with it, but with a little bit of a bend there, oh, I know you got the right to go from the outside to the inside, but Olaf Koy was clearly on the fencing side there, and Moschetti should have known he was there, so I'm okay with Moschetti getting relegated in the yellow card, and Olaf Koy afterwards, when we see him on the right side of the road after the line is finished and he's off his bike, you can tell that he's definitely upset about how today's stage 6 of the Giro went, and rightly so. So when we start talking about tomorrow's stage, guys, we get into the first summit finish, 10-kilometer climb and 2.5 kilometers at about 9.5%. So it's going to be a GC battle at the end of tomorrow's stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia. So make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next edition real soon.